The topic of my talk today is breathwork as an active embodiment meditation. And I'll start by giving you a little background on myself and how I actually got into breathwork. So when I was growing up, I was always very, very good at things having to do with intellect, things having to do with logic. I was a straight A student, got a good job, moved ahead in my corporation. But on the other side, the heart side, horrible. I would go into relationship after relationship after relationship, and with the same result. Within anywhere from 3 to 9 months, it would come to a point where I would break up in a very dramatic way, and I couldn't figure out what the problem was, which was incredibly frustrating to me because I was always used to figuring things out. It was always quite easy for me. And I finally came to the conclusion that, okay, there's billions of women out there. I just haven't met the right person yet. And I wasn't far along in my personal development at that point yet to see that there was only one thing that was common to all the relationships, and that was me, not the other person. So I didn't quite get it yet. So I was, rather than taking responsibility for it myself and seeing what my role was in creating these broken relationships, I would just blame it on the other person. And then at a certain point, I met a woman, and I wanted to date her. She seemed like maybe another good match, another try. But she had broken up with her ex-boyfriend, but she was still living with him. And one day she asked me, Michael, do you want to go down to Peru with me? And I'm going, oh, this could be great. I get her alone for, 4 or 5 or 6 days. Let's see if this is really a possibility. So I'm going, sure, let's go. So we ended up going to a place on the Amazon River in Peru, which had been purchased by a friend of hers to preserve the rainforest. And it was just the two of us and someone doing the cooking. And as we were going out there, the woman who was organizing it asked us, would you like to take a local shaman out there with you? So I'm going, sure, bring him along. It was this little guy that was like 4 foot 10 inches tall and didn't speak any English, so we had to get a translator. And the first night we're there, he comes to us and he says, would you guys like to participate in a religious ceremony that we do down here? And I'm science mind, chemical engineering, neuroscience. I'm going, what is it? I never say just yes to those kinds of things. So he goes, oh, it's very simple. Again, this is through a translator. I go out into the rainforest. I get some leaves and some vines. I put them all in a pot. I boil them all up together, and you drink it. So I'm originally thinking, oh, this is crazy. I'm in the middle of the rainforest, 4-hour canoe ride from nowhere. And this guy's going to go out into the forest and grab some stuff and boil it up, and I'm going to drink it. So, I'm used to chemical engineering where you mix like 0.562 grams of this and 0.8 grams of this, not just drinking some kind of witch's brew from the rainforest. So I'm ready to go, forget about it. But the woman I'm with, she's going, oh, Michael, we have to do this. This is going to be fun. So the two parts of my brain are in a battle at this point. It's like one part is going, Michael, don't do this. This is crazy. And the other part's going, oh my God, you've come all the way down to Peru just to hang out with this woman and see if maybe this is the one. And if you don't do this, she's going to think you're a wimp. It'll be over. So already my first breakthrough happened in that I became spontaneous. And for almost the first time in my life, I said, okay, just throw caution to the winds. Let's go for it. I've had a good life. And if I die here in the rainforest, at least it's a beautiful space. Let's just do this and see what happens. And so I drank the witch's brew, and it turned out it was ayahuasca, which I've never heard of before. And I had this amazing experience. It was the first time in my life that I really felt safe in the world, and where I felt like I was part of something, part of a bigger whole. And so after the experience, I'm going, oh my God, there's this whole new dimension to life that at this point, it was like 40 years that I'd never been able to access. And so when I got back to the United States, I'm going, okay, science brain, if I can have that kind of an experience with a substance, the receptors have to be there in my brain. There must be other ways to access those receptors without a substance. So I went on a journey and to try to find the answer. And ultimately, I landed on breath work. And I investigated various types of breath work and ultimately settled on a type of breath work called holotropic. I was very attuned to it because it was developed by a psychiatrist and named Stan Grof. And from a science base where he had worked with LSD psychotherapy, and then after that was banned, started to study traditional societies and also modern consciousness theory. And what he found was that breath was one of the common threads in what all traditional societies used to access healing, to access to be in a more embodied space for self-realization. And music, and the other thing was sound. Where like in shamanic societies, they use rattling and drumming. Even in Buddhist meditation, it's like watching the breath. And so he started to research and came up with this modality that he called holotropic breathwork, which is a 3-hour breathing experience to music, where you do, faster, deeper breathing and access what he called the healing power of non-ordinary states of consciousness. And he found that people had, in many cases, very similar experiences to when he was doing LSD psychotherapy with them. And it was interesting because one of the things that kind of tuned him into the breath was that when people were coming down from their experiences, they naturally breathed more deeply to try to hold themselves in the experience a bit longer. So that was one of his like clues that was one of the things that was important. So I said, okay, I'm in. And so I started taking workshops, and I started to have very similar experiences to what I was having on ayahuasca in Peru. I started to get many, many realizations, one of which was why I was having so much trouble with relationships. And this is something I've been struggling with since I was a teenager for decades. And within a few breathwork sessions, I saw exactly what the issue was. And what happened was I went back to my childhood, and what I saw was that in my childhood, at a certain point, both of my parents were Nazi Germany escapees. They were Jewish, so they barely escaped with their lives. And especially my mother, her family had been in Germany for hundreds of years, been woven into the fabric of German society. My grandfather was a World War I hero. One of my ancestors had paid off Napoleon to go around the village that she was in Germany that her ancestors were from, so they didn't burn it down. And all of a sudden, almost from one day to the next, she had to run for her life, and she barely escaped. So, when I was young, I would ask my mom about her childhood. When she would tell me these stories, I made a decision. And my decision when I was a child was, the world is an unsafe place. And I was thinking, okay, if you can't trust your society and all her friends turned against her, if you can't trust your friends, who can you trust and what can you trust? And as I grew older, I forgot about all this stuff. Like it became an unconscious thinking pattern. So when I got into relationships, it would be fine as long as I kept a bit of a distance. But once I got more vulnerable and closer, this conditioning would kick in and would go, unsafe. And I would pull back. And so the woman that I was with, who wanted to be in a relationship, would get frustrated because she was trying to get closer. I would start to pull back. So ultimately, I saw that it had nothing to do with the other person. It had to do with my own conditioning. And once I was aware of that conditioning, I could start to work with it. And when it came up in the next relationship, I said, okay, here it is again. And I could work with it. I would tell the other person I was with, this is coming up. I would tell them the story, bring them in and to support me in getting closer to them. And it was a journey, but ultimately I started getting into really deep personal relationships where I could be open and vulnerable. It completely shifted that part of my life. And then other things started to happen. And I had other breakthroughs in my life. So as I kept going with holotropic breathwork, I became a facilitator because I said, okay, this is just something that I have to offer to other people. It's just transforming my own life. I want to be able to contribute that to other people. And it's, their training program is like a 2.5-year training program, like $20,000 flying here and there. And then I started offering the workshops in Los Angeles where I live. And I was starting to see other people have some of these experiences. But my frustration was that I really saw that breath work was something that I felt, if it was spread enough to enough people, could result in a change in consciousness in the world. And Einstein once said that you can't resolve an issue from the same consciousness that creates it. And so I saw this is something that I can contribute to the world, that I'm good at. And again, the one frustration was that with holotropic breathwork, there are 3-hour breathing sessions. There's a sitter and a breather. So there's 2 3-hour breathing sessions in a workshop. It's a 12-hour day. You have to rent a huge venue. So it was something that I couldn't bring to a large number of people. It was something that I could bring to maybe 30, 40 people at a time. And even if I did one every couple of months, and if there a lot of work to put on, I couldn't really bring it to enough people to create the change that I really thought needed to be done, seen in the world. So I said, okay, I've got to develop my own breathwork modality that can be experienced by anyone that wants to do it anywhere in the world at a realistic price, so that even people who weren't well off and could also experience it if they just had the desire and the wanting really to change themselves, to move forward in their personal life and their personal development. And so what happened was I started kind of to create my own modality. I said, okay, what do I need to do? And what I saw was the only way to make this really work was to do it online and to really be able to present it to enough people to make a difference. And holotropic breathwork, you can't do online. They basically, it has to be done in person. So I spent the next 6 months experimenting to see would it work online. And this was like 5-6 years ago, when it was just really the technology to do this was just barely coming into play, with Zoom, with being able to share experiences online. And this is part of this is music. So you have to share like high quality music for people to listen to. And so I spent 6 months, I started working with people, and I saw that it totally worked. So I created this new modality that I call NeuroDynamic Breathwork. It's a 2-hour experience online. And in essence, there's a 30-minute introductory talk. Then there's a 1-hour breathing session. And then afterwards, there's a share group. And usually there's people from all around the world, from at least 10 or 15 different countries that participate. At this point, there's over 65,000 people have tried it from 120 different countries. And the results are phenomenal. There's 4 different types of experiences that people have. One is really like strictly embodiment experiences, where people get body releases. They release tensions and stresses that are stuck in their body, energetic blockages, and where many times they'll get hot, or they'll get cold, or their body gets numb and then releases, or tensions are created and then amazing releases happen. And the 3 keys to diving as deeply as possible into the process are first emotions, and then also allowing sounds to come out. Sound is one of your body's most important ways to release stress and tension. And many times we have childhood conditioning around really letting loud sounds come out, like don't bother people. Especially like I was a pretty rambunctious kid, so it's like I would run into the house and start making a lot of noise, and my parents would say, can't you see we're working? Take it outside, Michael. So I had a bit of this kind of unconscious conditioning around making loud sounds that I broke through my first breathwork session. It was amazing. And also movement. So we encourage people, if movements want to come, let them come. If sounds want to come, let them come out. And if emotions want to come out, emotions are not your enemies. Many people treat especially negative emotions as something that they want to suppress into their body. They're uncomfortable. They don't want to feel them. But many times in breath work, what we consider negative emotions are the most powerful doorways into the process and the most amazing releases that we have that allow us to really dive into the deepest parts of our psyche and into our being and have amazing, like, opening up experiences. So emotions, sounds, movement, 3 keys. And the second thing is surrender and trust. Letting whatever wants to happen. Don't try to guide it with your ego mind, with your thinking mind. And when you start doing, and we're doing faster, deeper breathing to music, basically, for an hour. And when you start doing that, there's certain physiological changes that happen in your body. Your CO2 gets a bit depleted, so your body recreates it. It makes your blood more alkaline. And what that does is, in your brain, there's certain parts that get more activity than normal, certain parts that show less activity, and they measure this through fMRI. And one of the parts that shows less activity is a part that's called the default mode network. And that's the part that is where you have the mental constructs of self and ego. And when that part gets less activity, the ego mind quiets down. And you get into a place where you're more in the present, in the now, get connected to your body, and where some of these amazing experiences are allowed to happen. And in addition to that, you can also get access to what I call inner guiding intelligence. Other people call it connection to source or creativity or intuition or your higher self. And you can start to get downloads about issues that are happening in your life. Many times people go back into childhood experiences but they see them from a different perspective. So for instance, let's say you had a traumatic experience as a child that you feel like has been holding you back in your life and keeping you from fully experiencing life. You go back and you see it, but you see it from a different perspective. And you see it from more of a perspective of what you could learn from the experience, what you can take away from it, rather than how it's damaged you or is holding you back in your life. And then you can start to use that as something that can move you forward in your life, instead of feeling like it's like this kind of weight around your foot. And as a result, like when we actually give people surveys, and we've surveyed hundreds and hundreds of our breathers, people who have things like trauma and coming into breath work, 89% feel that they have improvement through doing breathing over a period of time. The same thing with anxiety, like 83% show improvement. Depression, 67% show improvement. Over 50% feel like they're more present in their body, like they're more calm, like they're more peaceful in their life. And really, it's about just connecting. And what I found is that breath is really the only thing I've ever found that can really connect your body, your mind, and your spirit. It's really the connecting force. And so as I've done my own breath work, I've gotten insights into issues that have come into my life. I've been able to see what's been blocking me and really realizing my dreams and having successful relationships and starting a business. And even with starting my own business with this breathwork I developed, which I call NeuroDynamic Breathwork, when I started, these old mental thinking patterns came up. And they were like, you can't do this. This is an online business. You don't know anything about online businesses. The online businesses are for kids. You're like retirement age. What are you thinking, Michael? And also, I just didn't like social media. Like even like the first time that I was exposed to Facebook, I'm going, okay, let's try it out. So I open the Facebook account and I start looking at what other people are posting. And I'm seeing, it was mostly at that time about their food and their pets. And I'm going, what do people see in this thing? So I had to really break through these resistances that I had to, and I think part of the thing about Facebook was I was still about, I don't want to really open myself up, especially online. And and that type of thing. So I had to break through these stories that I had about these limitations that I'd placed on myself. And what I saw was that all of these limitations are really self-imposed. And ultimately, that if I'm really committed, and with breath work, I really saw that this was an area that I was good at, where I could hold safe space for people, where they could really drop into their experiences and open their lives up, and where I could contribute to the world. None of these self-imposed limitations didn't stop me, because I was committed to working through them. And as I just really committed to the process, it just happened. And so all of those things are available in breathwork. And many times people, for instance, feel more connected to the universe. They feel more part of everything. They feel more connected to their hearts. They have better relationships as they can become more vulnerable and become more open and become less fearful of being hurt. Many times when we've had relationships that have failed after a few times, and we haven't really allowed ourselves to feel the grief around the relationship, we don't let ourselves drop into future relationships, because on a certain unconscious level, we just don't want to go through that again. And I really saw that, I can work through this stuff. I can feel grief. It's okay. And if I just allow myself to fully feel it, it goes out of my body and makes room for something else, which many times on the other side of that is joy. But I have to go through the fear and go through the grief to really get to that place of joy, and to this kind of deeper place of myself that I normally don't have access to. So breathwork is something, I could talk about almost forever. But the only way to get a sense of it is to actually do it. It's an embodiment experience. It's not something that you can just understand and figure out with your head, in the same way that I couldn't understand or figure out relationships. So what I would like to do now is to give you a little taste of breathwork. And again, normally in our sessions, we have 1 hour of breathing. And there is to music, where you have this scientifically designed music set that supports you in diving as deeply as possible into your experience. And then it comes down very gently at the end, and it allows for integration and grounding. And then there's a share group, which is the next step in integration, where you can be in a safe space where you feel it's okay to really open your heart and start to share, and then bring that back into your life. But today we just have a few minutes, so I'm going to start you going with the breath, and then just do a very short taster, like 5 or 6 minute experience, just for you to get a sense of what's available. And so the music is going to be more gentle than we would normally do. And really the purpose is just see if, just with 5 or 6 minutes of breathing, do you feel a shift at all? Do you feel more grounded? Do you feel more embodied? Do you feel more relaxed? Just from a few minutes of breathing. So at this point, if you can, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be, closing our eyes, and then I'm going to be just getting you going with the breath, and you're going to be doing a deeper breath, full deep breathing, connected breathing. We're always breathing in or breathing out, and either at just normal pace or a little faster than normal, and then just letting whatever wants to happen. Just surrendering to the process, just opening up and just being, and just allowing. So, but what you're going to want is, you're going to want to listen to this in whatever way you get the best sound quality. So ideally an over-the-ear headset, if you have one. Otherwise, if you're on a phone, you can use earbuds, but whatever you can get the best sound quality, that's what you want to do at this point. So at this point, you just want to go and grab your headset or whatever it is that you have, and you can do this either sitting up or laying down. You just want to be just comfortable, and in a place where you won't be disturbed for the next 5 or 10 minutes. And I'll just give you a moment for that, and then we'll get started. Okay, so let's get started. So at this point, You can just close your eyes and bring your attention inside, letting go of what happened earlier today, letting go of what's going to happen later. Just bringing your attention into your body, into the moment, into the now. You're going to want to keep your eyes closed during this entire experience. And now for a moment, doing a quick body scan to see if there is any tension you can release in your body. Starting with your feet and then bringing your attention up to your legs and torso area, belly and head. Taking a few deep breaths and visualizing all of the tension releasing from your body and bringing yourself into a soft, gentle space. And now starting to deepen the breath, breathing in and out through the mouth, taking full deep breaths so that when you're breathing in, your belly expands a bit. And when you're breathing out, it goes back to normal. Taking full deep breaths, breathing fully and deeply, deeply and fully, fully and deeply. And now breathing in a way where there are no gaps. You're always breathing in or breathing out. It's creating a wonderful circle of breath, putting all your intention, all your focus on the breath, breathing fully and deeply, deeply and fully, fully and deeply. And you can breathe either at a normal pace or a little bit faster than normal if that feels right. Either is fine. But making sure to take full, deep breaths. Staying with the breath, staying with the breath. And during the next few minutes, if your body wants to move a little bit, it's fine. If it doesn't, that's fine too. If sounds want to come out, that's also okay. Just surrender and let go and let whatever wants to happen, happen. And in a moment, the music will begin, and have a wonderful journey. And now just gently being with yourself for a moment. Slowing down the breath if you haven't already. Being with yourself in a very gentle, open way. And when you're ready, opening your eyes, a very soft space. And noticing, do you feel any different than you did 6 minutes ago? Has anything shifted? Are you even just a little bit more present in your body? So thank you very much for listening to my presentation. And if you'd like to dive more deeply into this breath work, we offer everybody a free session if you just want to try it out, the actual 2-hour full experience. And you just have to go to my website, which is breathworkonline.com, and click on try free breathwork session, and hope to see you all there. Thank you so much again.